Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. New satellite images appear to show mass graves outside the besieged southern city of Mariupol in what Ukrainian officials say is evidence Russia's burying bodies to cover up war crimes. The release of the images came as the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights said, quote, Russian armed forces have indiscriminately shelled and bombed populated areas, killing civilians and wrecking hospitals, schools, and other civilian infrastructure, actions that may amount to war crimes, unquote. Meanwhile, a top Russian general says his army is seeking full control over eastern and southern Ukraine. Russian news agencies quoted the commander as saying he's seeking to create a land corridor connecting Russian-controlled Crimea in the south with the eastern Donbas region. The strategy suggests Russia might be planning an assault on the Black Sea port city of Odessa. President Biden says the U.S. will send another $800 million in military equipment to Ukraine, including heavy artillery and tactical drones. The U.S. is also sending another $500 million in economic assistance to Ukraine. Biden's announcement came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continued to appeal to European countries for more weapons. He spoke by video Thursday to the Portuguese parliament.
We need weapons to defend ourselves from the brutal Russian invasion that has caused as much evil as the fascist invasion 80 years ago. Leopard tanks, armored vehicles, anti-warship Harpoon missiles. This is what you have, and how you can help us to defend the freedom and civilization of Europe.
An affiliate of the Islamic State has claimed responsibility for 3 bomb attacks across Afghanistan Thursday that targeted Shia Muslims and the minority Hazara community. In the largest attack, a bomb exploded inside a mosque in the city of Mazar-e-Sharif, killing at least 12 people, injuring dozens. This is a survivor.
We urge the Islamic Emirate to pay more attention to the security of the people. How long will such incidents continue? Afghanistan's situation is so bad, we have no secure place to live.
Elsewhere, 2 children were injured in Kabul after a roadside bomb exploded near a boys' school in a Hazara neighborhood. A third bomb blast in northern Kunduz injured 11 people. French President Emmanuel Macron and far-right candidate Marine Le Pen are making their final appeals to voters ahead of Sunday's runoff presidential election. Several polls show Macron in the lead. This is Le Pen's 3rd attempt at the presidency. She's a nationalist running on an anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim platform. Here in the United States, a new report by Human Rights First condemns the Biden administration for imprisoning tens of thousands of asylum seekers at Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, jails, where they face prolonged detention periods, physical and psychological abuse, medical neglect, racism, a lack of legal and language resources, and other harms. The group says their imprisonment is wasteful, cruel, and a violation of U.S. and international law. This is Salma, an asylum seeker from Uganda, who was held at the Adelanto ICE Processing Center in California.
They transported me to Adelanto, which took almost 3 hours. Imagine being chained, all of your body being chained. You cannot even scratch yourself. You cannot even reach out for water for 3 straight hours. So when I got to Adelanto, I was told to hand over all my stuff, my passport, my everything. And these are things that I never got back. So I handed over my identifications, I handed over my phones. Immediately they cut off my hair because it was braided. And then they gave me an injection that up to date, I don't understand what it meant.
In related news, documents obtained by a coalition of immigrant rights groups reveal ICE has contracted with a third-party data broker, LexisNexis, allowing it to receive real-time jail booking data from sheriff's offices in the state of Colorado. The move to track the whereabouts of immigrants curtails Colorado's sanctuary policies, which are meant to prevent state and local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE. Jacinta Gonzalez of Mi Gente's No Tech for ICE campaign said, quote, ICE agents once relied on the police to help them track us, arrest us, and deport us. Now tech companies, by selling our personal data, are helping them instead, unquote. The former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, has been extradited to the United States. He was put on board a Drug Enforcement Administration plane Thursday in the capital, Tegucigalpa, and flown to New York, where he faces drug trafficking and weapons charges. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced the indictment at the Justice Department. He said Hernandez abused his position as president to operate Honduras as a narco state.
Hernandez is alleged to have received millions of dollars from multiple drug trafficking organizations, including from the former leader of the Sinaloa cartel, known as El Chapo. In return, drug traffickers in Honduras were allowed to operate with virtual impunity. We allege that Hernandez corrupted legitimate public institutions in the country, including parts of the National Police, military, and National Congress. And we allege that Hernandez worked closely with other public officials to protect cocaine shipments bound for the United States.
Hernandez was arrested in February, less than a month after his presidential term ended. He was a longtime U.S. ally who received backing during his entire 8-year term, despite mounting reports of serious human rights violations and accusations of corruption and involvement with drug smuggling. His brother, Juan Antonio Hernandez, is currently serving a life prison sentence in the U.S. after being convicted in 2019 of smuggling cocaine. A federal judge has halted Kentucky's 15-week abortion ban, at least for now. U.S. District Judge Rebecca Grady Jennings, a Trump appointee, blocked the law from taking effect for the next 2 weeks after Kentucky's 2 remaining abortion providers said the law provisions prevented them from continuing abortion care. Both clinics now plan to resume offering abortions. Kentucky Republicans passed the bill in March before overriding a veto by the Democratic Governor Andy Beshear last week. This comes as the Supreme Court is weighing Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban in a case that could overturn the landmark 1973 ruling in Roe v. Wade that legalized abortion nationwide. The Supreme Court has ruled the federal government can continue to deny benefits to seniors and people with disabilities living in Puerto Rico. In an 8-1 ruling Thursday, justices sided with the Biden administration, which says Puerto Ricans are not entitled to claim full Supplemental Security Income Benefits, or SSI, unless they move to the mainland. The lone dissenter was Justice Sonia Sotomayor, whose parents were born in Puerto Rico. She wrote in a dissenting opinion, quote, "There is no rational basis for Congress to treat needy citizens living anywhere in the United States so differently from others. To hold otherwise, as the court does, is irrational and antithetical to the very nature of the SSI program and the equal protection of citizens guaranteed by the Constitution," Justice Sotomayor said. Prison officials in Huntsville, Texas, have executed the state's oldest death row prisoner. On Thursday night, 78-year-old Carl Wayne Bunchen was strapped to a gurney and administered a single lethal dose of pentobarbital. Death penalty opponents have compared the drug's effect to drowning or being burned alive. In Tennessee, Republican Governor Bill Lee temporarily halted the execution of 72-year-old Oscar Franklin Smith Thursday evening, just hours before he was set to die. Governor Lee cited an unspecified oversight in the preparation of a 3-drug lethal injection cocktail meant to sedate and paralyze Smith while stopping his heart from beating. Meanwhile, South Carolina's Supreme Court has ordered a pause to next week's planned execution of Richard Bernard Moore. The court is weighing the constitutionality of South Carolina's new execution law, which requires condemned prisoners to choose between the electric chair and a firing squad. Newly published audio reveals top Republicans privately blasted Donald Trump in the days after the January 6th Capitol insurrection. The New York Times obtained a recording of House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy speaking January 10, 2020, with Wyoming Republican Congressmember Liz Cheney. In the call, Cheney asks McCarthy whether the House might pass an impeachment resolution.
Is there any chance, are you hearing that he might resign? Is there any reason to think that might happen?
I've had some few discussions. My gut tells me no. I'm seriously thinking of having that conversation with him tonight. And the only discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass. And it would be my recommendation you should resign.
Before the New York Times released that recording, McCarthy's office denied reports he'd privately called for Trump's resignation. In a statement, McCarthy called the reports totally false and wrong. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Mitch McConnell, who was Senate Majority Leader at the time, privately told colleagues after the Capitol insurrection that his party would soon break with Trump. He reportedly said, "If this isn't impeachable, I don't know what is." McConnell would go on to vote against convicting Trump during the Senate's second impeachment trial. And Republican state legislators in Tallahassee, Florida, have approved a gerrymandered congressional voting map drawn by Governor Ron DeSantis, which virtually guarantees Republicans 4 more seats in the House of Representatives. On Thursday, Florida's House voted 68-38 in favor of the map, sending it to Governor DeSantis for his signature. The vote was delayed after Black Florida lawmakers staged an impromptu sit-in protest against the congressional redistricting plan.
The people's house. Whose house? The people's house. Whose house? The people's house.
Florida State Representative Diane Hard, a Democrat from Tampa, live-streamed video from the floor of the Florida House chamber as she joined Thursday's protest. She said DeSantis' map is meant to disenfranchise Black voters.
We know that what the governor is doing with these maps is not fair. He is taking us from 4 representatives to 2. That's not fair. He should have allowed us, the legislature, to draw maps. His job is to either accept them or veto them. But he's not doing that. Instead, he's sending his own map. And he's saying, if you don't vote on my map the way I want my map to be, then guess what? You won't get a map.
Also on Thursday, Florida's House voted to rescind Walt Disney World's self-governing status after Governor DeSantis and his allies blasted Disney for opposing Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay law. The bill now heads to DeSantis' desk for his signature. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.